Alright guys, Dozer here bringing you day 2 recap for the Everfest spoilers. Let's get right into it. We've got Pulverize to start off, which is a Guardian, 10 cost, red, 14 attack, 3 block card, which has the effect that if it hits, the first attack your opponent makes on their next turn has -4 damage. Also, it has this new keyword called Heave, 3, which says at the beginning of your end phase, you can pitch this, you can play this card into your arsenal by paying 3, and you create 3 Seismic Surge tokens. Effectively, you're getting to prepay for Pulverize if you have a blue in hand with it at the end of your turn. This card's pretty interesting, and definitely is very scary as a 14 attack card that can just wipe out your turn if you let it hit. Also, it's a ton of damage. Definitely going to find its way into Guardian lists over time. Very good card. We're going to look at Battery Bolt. This card is a Ranger Arrow card, 6 damage, 2 cost, red, blocks 3. If it hits a hero, they reveal their hand and discard all cards other than actions. They then lose 1 health for each card. So defense reactions that get stuck in hand, or instants that get stuck in hand, or attack reactions that get stuck in hand are all going to be punished by this card. This card is definitely going to be good against Prism as a 6 attack card that also helps to threaten instants and D-reacts. So definitely keep your eye out for that card in that matchup, and Rangers are definitely going to enjoy having this card as an option for certain matchups. Moving on, we've got the new Warrior Headpiece, Helm of Sharp Eye. It is a 1-block battle-worn equipment that says an attack reaction. You can pay 1, destroy this, banish the top card from your deck. You may play it this combat chain. Activate this only if you have a weapon that has attack greater than twice its base. AKA, if you attack with Dawnblade for 3, you can't use this. If you attack with Dawnblade for 6, you still cannot use this. You have to attack with Dawnblade for 7 in order to be able to use this and get the extra card at the top of your deck by paying 1. Personally, I feel like this is going to be a very weak card. It's going to be hard to include this over Skullcap, even in Dorinthia or even in a lot of other warriors, unless they get some really, really good attack reactions that make it worth using this to dig for an attack reaction off the top of your deck. Maybe you can use this with Stroke of Foresight, but personally, I'm not loving it. In the Swing is a warrior attack reaction card, which is 0 cost, 3 block, and red pitch. It probably has the full cycle of the different colors, and it says that if you have attacked 2 or more times with weapons this turn, the target weapon attack is +3. AKA, you swing once, you swing twice, as an attack reaction, you buff the second sword swing for +3. This card is on rate for damage for the cost, but a lot of the times, I feel like there are other attack reactions that just do what this does, but better. So it may find its way into dual-wielding decks, but it's definitely not amazing compared to a lot of other cards that already do what it does, but with less restrictions for a 0 for 3 on a weapon attack. Going forward, we got Kraken's Ethervane. It's a wizard staff weapon, 2-handed, once per turn instant. You can pay 3 to deal 1 arcane to a hero. Opposing hero is a key thing here, and then you can draw a card for each damage dealt this way. If you could target yourself with this, you could effectively deal 1 to yourself to cycle a card, which would be pretty interesting, but you can't do that. So effectively, this card is going to threaten 1 arcane. If your opponent lets it hit, you get free damage in. Otherwise, they pitch a card to stop it, and then maybe you get a card out of their hand. It's not terrible in a hand where you otherwise would just be trying to fish off the top with Kano or something anyway, or an Icelander who doesn't have that option. Maybe you have an extra blue in hand, which you can just threaten something with. So it's not a bad card, but it's also not great. It's kind of like a Band-Aid fix. It doesn't necessarily have its own proactive game plan that it's trying to achieve. If this has the ability to get buffed over time, this card becomes a lot better, though. Just keep an eye out for that. Talisman of Balance is a item card with Go Again that's a blue pitch, costs 0. It stays on the field until you use it, and at the beginning of your end phase, if you have less cards in your arsenal than an opposing hero, destroy this and put the top card of your deck into an empty arsenal zone you control. The thing is, this is mandatory, so if your opponent has a card in arsenal, they can force this to trigger, which isn't bad for you, but it's also not great. If you have this card, you're effectively arsenaling a random card in your deck, and that's normally not what the arsenal is for. So I would say Talisman of Balance would be potentially usable in classes that don't care what's in their arsenal. Maybe if you have Crown of Seeds accessible or something like that. Like maybe Briar would use this if she ever had like a slower build to try and get tokens off, and then to use Crown of Seeds to get rid of that card. But otherwise, I don't see this as being particularly great. Going on, we've got Potion of Deja Vu. a 0 cost 3 pitch weapon, item with an instant ability, no go again. It says destroy this, put all cards from your pitch zone on top of your deck in any order. This card is potentially very good in Kano, but I think if Kano has the ability to set up this play, Kano could probably just OTK you anyway, so I think Potion of Deja Vu is going to add some play lines for Kano, but I don't see it as being a staple card that they keep forever just because it's so random and whether or not it's useful that you'd rather be in the quick games that Kano is trying to play. You would normally rather be getting Energy Potion or a Tome of Fyendal off of that Banish instead of this card. I don't know if this has room in the Kano deck, but who knows, it might. Going on, we have Amulet of Echoes. Amulet of Echoes is a 0 cost, go again, 3 pitch item that as an instant lets you destroy it. You target a hero, they discard 2 cards. But you can only activate this ability if they have played 2 or more cards with the same name this turn. This card, right now, is not going to be useful at all. If your opponent sees this on the board, they're not going to put themselves into a position where they're going to play 2 cards with the same name, unless they really, really have to. Like, maybe you're playing against Chain, and you know he's trying to set up the Eclipse combo at the end of the game with How and a couple of the other cards. Well, Amulet of Echoes there is going to be good at helping you stop Chain's final turn with the Eclipse activation, but besides that, you know, they can see it coming, so they're not going to play into it. The only thing this really helps is situations like the Kane situation where they're trying to do this thing and they must do it, or they kind of lose the value and they die, or it helps to be a safety valve for combo decks, such as infinite combos or really ridiculous combos. So definitely a card to keep your eye on, just to have some copies lying around, but not something you want to be thrown into any decks as a main board anytime soon. Going forward, we have 100 Winds. This is a ninja attack action with 3/2/1 attack based on its color, 2 defense, 0 cost, red pitch, yellow pitch, blue pitch, potentially, and then go again. 100 Winds has combo, where it says if 100 Winds was the last attack this combat chain, this attack gains +1 for each copy that you have already played. So effectively, 100 Winds buffs itself when you play more of itself. Definitely a potentially good target for the Echo card, but the problem is that this card is effectively a 0 for 4 go again on average, right? So if you can play 3 copies of this as a red, each of them is going to come in for 3, 4, 5. That's an average of 4 damage per copy. Which is great because it's got natural go again. It's a 0 cost, so it synergizes with Katsu's ability. You can pitch it for Kodachi's as a blue, threatening 1 damage, going into other attacks. Very interesting card. Made more interesting by the fact that you get to run Winds of Eternity along with it. Winds of Eternity is a 0 cost, 3 pitch, 3 block, 2 attack combo card, which says if 100 Winds was the last attack this combat chain, this gains +2, and when it hits, shuffle all cards named 100 Winds you own to the combat chain back in your deck. So effectively, if you hit with Winds of Eternity, you can recycle all the copies of your 100 Winds and keep doing that into the late game. So that's pretty interesting. It'll remain to be seen whether or not these low numbers can really synergize with Katsu enough to be worth running, but I definitely think you should keep your eye out for Winds of Eternity and 100 Winds, at least as the red and blues. I don't think the yellows will see play, but the blues will probably see play for pitch, and the reds will probably see play for damage alongside these. So it might be a 9 of in Katsu going forward. We have the Runeblade equipment, Vexing Quillhand. Vexing Quillhand is a strict upgrade over Null Rune Gloves for Runeblade, and allows them to destroy it for 2 rune chance on their turn on demand. So this card is potentially useful for Runeblade if they ever are scared of Kano or other arcane dealing classes and they really need the arcane barrier, and if they're willing to get rid of Grasp. This really competes with Grasp with the Arknight, and Vexing Quillhand definitely is not strictly better than Grasp, especially because normally the head slot on Runeblade is pretty open, and they can run Arcane Barrier there easily. So going on, we've got Signal Jammer, a Mechanologist item that costs 0 and is a blue, does not have go again. And it says it enters the arena with a steam counter on it. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy this unless you control a steam counter on it. And for each hero cannot play more than 1 non-attack per turn. So effectively, Signal Jammer is a way to kind of not only mess with Wizard, but it's a way to help slow down these kind of setup decks. Like maybe it's a Azalea or Lexi pump deck, or maybe it's a Runeblade deck. Signal Jammer helps to slow decks like that down. Pretty interesting card. I think it could be useful in sideboarding, especially against against Kano. It definitely slows him down, so I would definitely, if Mech ever has a problem with Kano, see that coming into play for sure. Maybe it's a good card in Blitz to help Mech compete in Blitz. Who knows? Dissolution Sphere, on the other hand, is a Mechanologist item that costs 2 to play and is a yellow. So this one has the same text as the one before it, where if it enters the arena, it gets a steam counter, and it destroys itself if it doesn't have any steam counters left. Except this one says, whenever your hero would be dealt exactly 1 damage, prevent it. AKA, if your opponent attacks you for 4, you block 3, you stop a damage. If your opponent pops 50 rune chants, it stops each rune chant. If your opponent attacks you with 8,000 Kodachis, it stops every Kodachi. So Dissolution Sphere is very good as a sideboard option into certain heroes, and I can imagine Dash is going to play this into Viserai and Prism to try and get some value off of that. However, I think this is mainly an anti-control Viserai tool. I don't really see this coming into a lot of matchups, and unless you can put counters on it over time. If you can keep Dissolution Sphere and Signal Jammer around by putting more steam counters onto them, then they can definitely see a ton of play as recurring value engines / floodgate options. Oath of Steel is a warrior action card with 3 blocks, 0 cost, and 1 pitch value. It says whenever you attack with a weapon this turn, put a +1 counter onto it, and then remove them all at the end of the turn. So effectively, this is a dual-wielding warrior's favorite dream, or any weapon that can attack multiple times, right? So if I'm attacking with, let's say, a one-handed weapon with Go Again, and it has unlimited swings per turn, and let's say I can pay for it, 6 times, I'm going to get 1, +2, +3, +4, +5, +6 value onto it. That's a lot of damage. Oath of Steel, therefore, works really well with Lumina Ascension, with Boltyn. As if you play Lumina, after doing a charge effect, the Oath of Steel on the tail end is going to add the bit of extra damage that you're missing from the 3rd Lumina, aka this card synergizes with Lumina and helps you get a bit more value as Boltyn if you can't hit the triple Lumina or if you can't hit the full combo. That definitely lets you play Lumina as more of a tempo card and could be really interesting to see in that deck. Going forward, we've got Ready to Roll, which is a brute action card. It says it is a 0 cost blue pitch card that blocks 3 with Go Again, except, it's a Kano specialization. If you would roll 1 or more dice this turn, instead roll that many dice +1 and ignore the lowest roll. AKA, Ready to Roll just gives the KO player a better chance at not whiffing on his ability, right? Because you take the best result, so on average, you're probably going to be either not getting the negative effect. Well, I guess it's a binary effect. So this is just a KO ability to try and get a big attack off. It's all right. It blocks 3, pitches blue. You could play it or not. It wouldn't really affect your turn. So you can pitch it or block with it. It's perfectly valuable and valid card. And sometimes it can help you guarantee that you don't whiff on your turn. So that's kind of cool for KO, but he's a young hero, so I don't know if we'll be seeing him. Crown of Reflection, Illusionist equipment, headpiece. As an instant on your own turn, during your action phase, you can destroy Crown of Reflection, destroy target illusionist aura you control. If you do, you may put an illusionist aura from your hand into the arena with cost less than or equal to the aura destroyed this way. It also has Arcane Barrier 1. So, this is a strict upgrade over Null Rune Hood. However, Prism has not been running Null Rune Hood because she has access to Halo of Illumination. Currently, Prism is the only illusionist hero, and if she wants Arcane Barrier, she normally goes for the gloves, and either the boots if she's worried about Kano, or maybe the hood if she was really, really super worried about Briar. The problem is that Halo of Illumination has Spell Void too, which means that on a given turn, it can be worth 2 resources to stop 2 damage from an arcane source, whereas Crown of Reflection cannot do that. It is a pitch outlet, which is great, but once you destroy this to use its ability, the Arcane Barrier is gone. So unless an illusionist comes out who doesn't have access to a good headpiece otherwise, having this is going to be at least better than nothing. And as you might have noticed, Crown of Reflection is a horrible idea to use on Spectras. Breaking it for your opponent is definitely not what you want to do. So definitely make sure that you keep an eye out for new illusionist cards that are revealed, because as new auras get released, we might find auras that benefit you on destruction by maybe creating spectral shields or giving you some kind of benefit. Or you might see auras that have a shelf life where they tick down over time and then eventually destroy themselves. So maybe the turn right before it destroys itself, you get all the value out of it, and then you break it to replace it with another card. That is potentially interesting and potentially useful, and it might slot into illusionist lists in the future. We'll have to see what other cards release to go along with it. Now we've got Amulet of Oblation. It's a 0 cost to go again blue pitch item card with an instant ability that says you can destroy this until the end of the turn. Target attack action card gains if this would be put into a graveyard. Instead, you put it on the bottom of its owner's deck. Activate this only if a card has entered a graveyard this turn. Effectively, this amulet allows you to look at your opponent's card or your own card and say, I want this to go on the bottom of the controller's deck. If your opponent is attacking with a card like, I don't know, something they want to have go into the graveyard, like Levia, for instance. If Levia's already had a card go to the graveyard this turn, you could put her 6 attack card that she needs to have in banished to set up for next turn on the bottom of her deck. That can really mess her up and make her be forced to play Blood Debt, which could be really funny. Additionally, you could also have it put your own cards more likely back into your deck so you can use them later. That's all right. I wouldn't say that this is a good card, but it's not a horrible card. You can definitely use this to recur some of your resources, and you don't have to waste your action point to get it into play. So this card's actually pretty playable, but you definitely want to have very specific targets for this that are like big bomb cards in the end of the game, just to try and have that really long anti-fatigue strategy going on. Beyond that, we've got Talisman of Cremation. Talisman here says when you play a card from your banished zone, which only Shadow Heroes can currently do, unless you are Katsu, Kano, or Dorinthia, I believe. And you can name a card, banish all cards with the chosen name from each opposing hero's graveyard. So Talisman of Cremation is really weird. It doesn't seem to have any obvious usages at the current time, unless you're in some type of mirror match, where, let's say, you're playing as Chain, so you're banishing a card to, you're playing a card from banished. You can then destroy this card and banish any card from your opponent hero's graveyard. So this is kind of like graveyard hate that's only accessible to a couple heroes, namely, again, Chain, Levia, Dorinthia. Technically, any warrior can now with the helmet, but it's a one-time thing. Kano can do this, and Katsu can do this. So those heroes might want to do this to be able to, you know, graveyard hate somebody by just banishing all the cards out of there. But the problem is very few characters actually use their graveyard for anything. You know, basically only Levia uses the graveyard on a consistent basis. So unless we're getting more Shadow Heroes that are trying to use their graveyard for things, this is not going to be useful, especially since only certain heroes can even use it. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not other heroes are able to use this as a sideboard card against future Shadow Heroes, or if Shadow Heroes will use it against each other. But yeah, that's going to do it for day one, unless anything has popped up since I started recording. It does not look like it. I believe I've now covered every spoiled card that has been shown, except for Benji's specialization, which is called Spring Tidings. It's a young hero specialization, which lets you draw some sort. I don't really play Blitz. I'm not really going to go into this too much, but as a 3-block, 2-attack, go again, yellow pitch, it is on rate for a normal card. So it's definitely a good card, just for its pure raw value as numbers. But it also, if you play this, you can draw a card for each other attack with very small base attack that you control in the combat chain. So it's a good card for Benji. You know, definitely you're going to play that. But anyway, that's going to do it for today. Thanks for watching. Looking forward to more spoilers, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and consider subscribing for more Flesh and Blood content. I'd like to take a moment to thank all of the patrons for making this content possible by supporting the channel over on Patreon. So, first we have the Dreamweaver tier patrons. Thank you to TerraBlitz. You rock. Longtime supporter. Glad to have you on board. Then for the Sentinel tier patrons, we've got David Romish, Joe Gianoli, Michael Lynch, P13TR2U, Scott Koo, and Tim J. Then for the Herald tier patrons, big shout out to Ike Vickhagen, Francesco Lorenzi, Henrik, Jacob Wilson, and Moonshaker for their continued support. And then for the Spectral Shield patrons, we have Hasiel Diaz, Rachel, and Sarazar. Thank you all for your support, and looking forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Peace.